Welcome to Voices from the Field podcast presented by Extra Innings Softball, where the stories are real, the conversations are honest, and the game goes way beyond the field. We're bringing you insight, inspiration, and all things softball from the people shaping the sport.
Good afternoon, Extra Innings Softball. It's Carie, and we are back with our first episode of season 4 of our Voices from the Field podcast. And I am super excited to bring back my colleague, my partner in crime, the one that I'm missing that's not working full time, Miss Katie Lively, to kind of kick off this whole new season. And this season, we're really going to try to focus on the things that matter most to you all, the recruiting, the NILs, the portals, all the new changes that are going on, do a lot of talking about the class of 2026 and why the differences and what we're doing in the rankings or not rankings as far as watch lists. And I'm just super excited to hit some topics of new products that are out there, just so that you know we've got the Extra Inning crew going to some pretty big things in the next month that we're going to be able to cover for you. And we're just really excited. So welcome back, Katie. I'm super excited to have you. And this time, everything we're doing is we took questions from people across the country from different regions of things that they want to know about and have us kind of talk and banter back and forth. And I'm super excited to have you back. And so I'm so excited you're here. So I'm happy.
I'm very excited to be back too. It's kind of like riding a bike. I feel like I'm back, getting back in the saddle a little bit.
We need to make a habit of it at least once a month that Katie Lively is on it.
I think we can make that.
Deep Thoughts by Katie Lively.
I don't know if you want that, but yes, I'm super excited to kind of banter back and forth with you, Carie, about some different questions that we got. We asked on our Instagram page to ask some questions from players, from parents, from coaches that just want to, get their questions answered on the podcast. So we got a few from them. So I will go ahead and start it off. And the one question that I thought was really interesting, that I don't think we've really talked about a ton. We've talked about recruiting, we've talked about the process, but someone asked, how do you know you're on the right track being recruited as a sophomore in high school? That's a really cool question to me because, you talk about the junior year, starting off that September 1 date. And we talk about, all the things leading up, but kind of, the gauging where you're at as a sophomore is really important. And I know we have different levels, have different rules with recruiting and contact periods. So Carie, what do you think? How do you, especially as someone who kind of just went through it with your daughter, you have a sophomore, maybe they're about to go into this spring season in high school, and how do they, how can they reflect and be like, okay, am I where I need to be to get recruited?
That's such an interesting question, and it's very loaded, and there's not going to be any one particular answer that I think is correct. I think this is really weird that you asked this question or they asked this question. I literally just spent an hour with a gentleman trying to help his child. And he's like, look, I just want to talk to someone that knows things. And so really, I just said, I want you just to talk to me because there's no blanketed question in that. You know what I mean? Because I think the first thing that I would say specifically as a parent, like I would love parents to spend more time really I don't want to say putting pressure, but adding pressure to kids that freshman, sophomore year of, hey, what do you think you want to do when you're out of college? Because that really gears, are you in the right places or all that stuff, because we don't know, is this question geared towards all I want to do is play Power 4 or is it mid-major? And I even said that to this gentleman. I said, look, number one thing you've got to know is like, what is it that you think your kid wants to do? Because my thing with Macy was like, I constantly asked her that because if she said she wanted to be a marine biologist, well, Arkansas's out of the picture. Like you're not going to go to Beaver Lake and become a marine biologist. And the truth be known, here's the thing that I said to him. I think it kind of surprised him. I said, you and your wife and your daughter need to put all ego aside. No ego can be involved in this because you can't be paying attention to what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
So first, let's start with, like he said, his daughter was considering wanting to be a vet. I said, well, okay, that's big. That's huge. There's a lot of schools that you shouldn't go to. And I'm not even sure you should consider Power 4. Like Power 4 is like all softball. It's going to be all softball. Everything you're doing is softball. And anybody that tells you differently is lying to you. Does that mean you're not going to be able to go to a football game? No, you're going to go to a football game. But that also means you're going to also have to think about being up at weights on the next day, or doing training, or doing different things, or making sure you're going to sleep. So, I jokingly say, Macy says all the time, I'm an athlete student. And Power Fours, for the most part, and I'm not taking away their education, because there are young women in Power Four that are doing great stuff, but there are certain majors that are going to be really difficult to do and be a Power Four
100%.
athlete. It's just the bottom line, and you got to know it. Can it be done? Absolutely. Is it going to be easy? No, it's not.
Right.
Maybe you want to consider a mid-major more, or a D2 or a D3, or that's going to get you set up to do different things. But gauging where you're at, I think as a sophomore, what you need to know is that you need to have been to your top 5 or 6 schools camps. Like,
Yeah.
if there are 5 or 6 schools camps that you go, man, if in a dream world, I want to go there, 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 there. You need to have been on that campus and been in front of those coaches so they see you prior to going into your summer. Like,
Yeah.
you need to see, you need to be able to gauge, you need to be able to say, hey, what are my chances of coming here? This is my dream school. I'd love for you to come. You can gauge by that part of it.
Yeah.
If you're not hearing from some of those schools, then maybe you need to broaden that a little bit more. You need to be on the right club teams, and that does not mean you have to play for the top 25 programs in the country, but you got to have somebody that's a liaison for you, that's calling those schools, that's getting answers. Like,
Yeah.
if when I was coaching and my kid said, and I'm not saying my kid, but the kids that were playing for me, it said, hey, I really want to go to Ole Miss. I would pick up the phone call and say, hey, I've got Katie Lively and she's on my team, pretty good ball player. This is what she's doing. This is what she's looking. You're her number one school. What do you know about her? If they
Yeah.
say, I don't know anything about her, or I don't need that, I'm saying that to my kids because this is a fit.
Mhm.
So I think the exposure is the big part. Getting to the camps, you don't have to be to everything. You don't have to spend a ton. And then really knowing what is it that you want. If you're a Power Four or bust, then you're going to have to be on a massive national team that's traveling all over the country, playing the best competition all the time. Now,
Yeah.
are there Power Four players that go and play and didn't leave regionally? Yes, but those are few and far between. And it's getting harder
Yeah.
because there's a limit of 25 on a roster.
Mhm.
It's getting harder because there's the portal.
Yeah.
But I think from that level, that's really where it needs to be. And I would mix in some of these camps that you can go to that have multiple college coaches, so that you're putting yourself in front of multiple, getting your name out to where people know who you are and what you want is the most important thing, so that you're already on people's medium list, not the short list, because as a sophomore, you don't have to be on their short list, but on their medium list. And are you communicating at all times with these people? Do they know? It doesn't mean you have to write a dissertation to them, but hey, I'm Katie Lively. I play for North Alabama High School and our season's getting ready to kick off. I know you're in season. I see this following up. Come watch me play. Put a little blurb of a video out there. Manning your social media. Like, people hate social media, but manning your social media might open up some doors for you that otherwise might not have been open had they not, because there are schools out there with limited recruiting budgets. If they're like me as college coaches and they can't sleep, they're going to peruse through things and see things and ask. So I think that's how you know where you're at. If you haven't been to camps and you haven't done those things, you're late. That's just the bottom line. You're late. Does it mean you can't do it? Absolutely not. But you're going to have to play some catch up, or you might think about, if you're a Power Four bus and you are late in that process, maybe you go to one of the top JUCOs in the country, so that
Yeah.
that becomes an option for you. So I think money becomes a play. I know for what I've spent on my daughter playing college or softball, I could have played for at least her first 2 years of softball at Arkansas.
At least.
So I think, it becomes a financial thing that you have to look at with your family. It's not just about the kid. And I think the thing that I had said to him that was so important is, I said, look, I had a conversation with Macy very early on that I will never sacrifice for her as her parent. And everyone's going to go, oh my God, she won't sacrifice. No, I'll invest. I will 100% invest in my daughter, and I will go work a corner on a street if I have to invest in my daughter. But that means her energy has got to be matching my investment. Because
Right.
if not, then I'm going to save some money and go get a pedicure and a manicure and go do some of those things. Like, I'm not doing that, So I think to know where you're at is, are you doing the homework outside of just, I want to be recruited and want to go play? It's a lot of work,
Yeah.
and where are you at in the weight room? What are you doing in the weight room? You know, are you getting faster? Are you getting stronger? Are you working when no one's watching? Are you doing the extra things? And the bottom line is softball is a year-round sport.
Yeah.
If you're going to be at that elite level, and sadly, I hate to say it because I've always loved multi-sport athletes, but you're going to have to be a multi-sport athlete that softball always comes first if
Yeah.
that's what you want. I mean,
There's a
that's just,
question about that later, so I'm excited you mentioned that.
oh, Lord, I just led right into it. So I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if you've got more to add to it, but that's really where I kind of feel the process is.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I think what I kept going back to, like in my head when you were saying these things, is my old college coach who was really big on being able to pass the pillow test. And so I don't know if anyone's heard of the pillow test, but basically, like, are you able to lay down at night and know that you did everything you could that day to be the best person, best teammate, best, best whatever you are in your life? And I think that's what I think of a lot when you were saying, putting in that work is I don't know if there is like a scale where it's like, oh, I did this today. So this is where I'm at. But it's more of, can you lay down at night? Can you get to September 1 and the night before know, you know what? I did everything that I possibly could. And in my scope, I'm not comparing to anybody else. I did what I could with what the resources I had, the time I had, and the family I have, and everything like that. I did everything that I could, and now, like you always say, it's up to God and He knows where I'm going. So I've done everything I could. So I think that's kind of where I go. I think everything you said is spot on. And so it's like kind of reiterating, like, just being able to do everything you can and don't compare yourself. Don't compare what everybody else is doing. Do what you can do and do everything that you can. And then at the end of the day, when that time rolls around, that's going to be when the Lord has it. And, whatever His will is, it will happen. Um, but yeah, I love everything you said.
There's so many other things like there's U-HIT. We've had them on. You can be doing the U-HIT things that are mental training. And everything I'm saying when I say these things costs money.
Yeah.
So I'm not sitting here saying, hey, here's a freebie thing and here's this. You've got motor preferences. I think for what I would say to every parent and every child listening to this or young player is you have to decide how much that you have to spend to put into it.
Yeah.
I give lessons. I go and give
Yeah.
lessons because I can take an extra $1,500 and put it out to U-HIT. Everyone goes, "Oh my God, $1,500." Well, it's $1,500 for 365 days of my
Yeah.
kid being able to use it. Now, if my kid's not using it, it's a waste of money. But if she's using it, that's another thing that puts her one more thing ahead of other people. And, I think maybe because I'm an older mother with a younger child, it's very easy for me to say, because I always have looked at, I'm going to do everything I possibly can for my kid, whether it's softball, sports, life, to give her everything I have because I might not be here tomorrow because I'm older. It's just an easy way for me to kind of look at those things is I want to dump into her everything I possibly can so that when and if I am gone, she's got the best opportunity and figure out a way to make it happen. And you just cannot replace hard work.
No.
And hard work is not high school practice. Hard work is not a lesson a week. Hard work is not playing on your team and you go and play 8 tournaments in the fall. It's everything. Like,
Yeah.
I can see how a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid would see it as a sacrifice because you're going to give up going to a football game. You're going to give up doing those different things. But the way I've always talked to it, that's not giving up. It's actually an investment.
100%. Yeah. I definitely. So I love that. And I could talk about that for days, but I'm going to move on to
Okay.
the next question. But you mentioned it. So I kind of wanted to shift to this. But one of the questions was talking about multi-sport athletes and basically asked, being a 2 or 3 sport athlete, can that hurt college recruiting? Or does it help? Is it more an advantage? Or do you feel like being, playing basketball, volleyball, softball, track, whatever it may be, does that hurt the chances of being recruited or who you get recruited by?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, like that's a total double-edged sword. And I can see it one way or the other. I always said in all of my recruiting, I loved multi-sport athletes because I didn't want just softball players. I wanted athletes. I love the fact that is. I think a lot of it has to do with time management. And the bottom line is you're going to have to understand that there's injury risks. That's just the bottom line. And I hate to say that because here my daughter's gotten hurt and she didn't do it in another sport. So it can happen in anything that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just happens. Um, and I'll go ahead and say, like, my daughter played basketball um, through her sophomore year of high school. And then it was like, look, we got to go all in. Like, and here's the thing: it wasn't that the basketball was the problem, although I think private high school basketball in Mississippi resembles more of rugby than it does basketball. Like, it's serious. Like, I mean, it's not a matter of if you get hurt, it's when and how bad,
Yeah.
because I don't even think they know how to block just flat tackles, you know? So when I say that, we made the decision because if you're playing basketball, it wasn't that the basketball was the issue. It was that we didn't have the ability to go on a 4-day trip to Rhode Island to go do motor preferences with Matt
Right.
Wood. You know, we didn't have the ability to leave and go down and meet with the U-Hit guys so they could train. We couldn't go up to Arkansas to watch different things and work with the trainer if we needed to be, or talk to the trainer on something, you know. So I think that's where the hurt came from. It's the time management. And I don't know about it, and then this may be not the right thing to say, but some of these high school coaches in these other sports, I'm like, look, if I was a high school basketball coach and I had a Division 1 athlete that for another sport that wanted to play, and
Yeah.
she needed to miss practice to go to something for the school that she's committed to, I'm going to go, yeah, go. I'm going to take you when I can get you.
Exactly.
They all want, and
Um,
I think that leads me to the whole thing. They all are so demanding, from high school coaches to travel coaches to parents, that we demand so much time of these kids. They don't ever get a chance to even just breathe. And so for
yeah.
me, that's why it would change for us, where we went, yep, no, we're going down to 1. So that
Yeah.
there was at least some downtime.
Yeah.
You know, there was some downtime, like, you know, December, it's okay if you don't go hit 5 days a week.
Right.
You know, we can take some of that,
Right.
but, you know, but when you're playing basketball, you can't take any days off from hitting
Yeah.
because you're missing days of hitting because of basketball.
Right.
But then basketball put her in great shape. So
Yeah.
there's those different things. So I think it's very individual. I think it's, if you're in the right place with some of your high school sports or coaches, I think that makes a big difference. Like, I don't know, if I'm a high school coach, I'm taking every athlete there is. And if you are a serious athlete in something else, I'm going to be okay with you missing something. But that's a whole nother can of worms you got to open up, because you've got
Exactly.
high school. A lot of kids aren't playing high school softball anymore. And
Yeah.
quite frankly, I used to
100%.
think that was crazy. And that's really sad, because those should be some of the fun times in your sport.
Yeah.
Really
It's
just
fun.
about representing your city and your school and having fun within it no matter what. And I see more and more athletes not playing. And I'm gonna tell you, I kinda get it. I kinda
You're like,
well,
probably
I guess an old dog can learn new tricks. I think it's very individual, a lot like, where are you at in the recruiting part of it. So that would
yeah.
be my take
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah. And I think too, like for me and my experience, like me and my sister both ended up playing at the same level in the same conference. I now granted my recruiting process was different because it wasn't September 1. It was a little bit different, but I
Yeah,
quit.
6th grade.
Yeah, it's like
Coming out of
yeah,
diapers, you guys were deciding.
right. So it's a little bit different. So I'm not saying you compare it fully, but like I quit volleyball after my freshman year to get to focus on getting recruited. My sister never quit. She played volleyball all 4 years and she ended up going to the same, like I said, the same level, the same conference school. So I think that it just depends on the athlete. I have a friend that played at Division 1 mid-major program. She played volleyball, basketball, and softball, and she got recruited just fine. So like you said, I think it's case by case, and it's what you want too. You can't say like, oh, if you want to play Power Five, you can't do that, because I think I just saw a UCLA softball player. It's all over Twitter right now, but she's playing basketball and softball. So I do think that times are changing. I don't want to say times, but maybe just the standards are changing to where you have these Power Five players not only playing in high school, but now they're playing Power Five like
College.
basketball and softball. So
Well, and, you know, I wonder how much the, like, limited roster spots and all those kind of
right,
things are changing because it goes through that process. It takes a really special kid to
it
be
does
able to do that, because you have no off season. And
100%. Yep.
academically, I mean, I would have hated not having an off semester for myself
Yeah,
academically to be able to load up on
that's
classes,
what you
but
want.
you can
Yeah,
do it. Yeah, anything can be done, and you can do anything you want to. And I love the fact that multi-sport athletes creates athletes and not softball players. I hate the fact that a lot of these other sports can cause issues within your sport of
I
softball,
agree.
number 1. So it's a real personal decision, and you gotta be committed one way or the other.
I agree. I agree. So this next question is really interesting. I have talked about this with my friends that coach right now over and over again. Like this is a thing we've talked about a lot in the past few months, and it's all about fall season. So someone asked, should there be a limit on fall games? Should fall season be a thing? Even looking from a coaching standpoint, like, do you think recruiting in the fall should even be a thing? Should it just be summer because they play so much in the summertime? And I know coaches are they don't get time off. Like it's summer is go time for recruiting. So I know I asked like multiple questions in one, but the main question was just, should there be a limit on games in the fall?
Yeah.
It's
I
interesting.
yeah, I think it's a great discussion. Here's the bottom line. Uh, Parents need to advocate for their children and do what's right for their children. Period.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of college coaches saying, "Well, we shouldn't be doing all these tournaments. We should only have camps." Well, then I shoot back to them. Well, then that's all about money in your pocket.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to your camp, the only one that's seeing them is you.
Exactly.
Um, I do completely understand what they're saying. Macy's team, 21 kids are on it this year, all committed, predominantly power four. Well, we have 21 kids, so why would you limit how many times they could play? Because they're doing that because 3 or 4 are missing this weekend, 3 or 4 are missing that weekend. And the bottom line is yes, it's really hard on college coaches because they're going nonstop. They're trying to develop their teams in the fall. The fact of the matter is they've got 4 on their staff now. They don't all have to be out recruiting.
That's
Some
true
can
too.
be developing and
Yeah.
some can be doing that. So I think the things that, and this is going to be very controversial that I say this, all these college coaches are going to yell at me when they see me soon. But I think the bottom line is you guys are being paid millions of dollars. Well, $500,000 for some of these people to win and do jobs. And these athletes are employees now, at least at the power four level, um, that you're getting paid for a job. So I don't know why that's a problem. And
Yeah.
I'm a big person that I hate everybody telling me how to do anything. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to make my own decisions. And if I thought that Jazz is 18, Casey Jackson was playing 10 weekends in the fall and it's too much, my kid's going to 5. My kid's going
Right.
to,
Yeah.
it's easy to make those decisions. Do I think I would rather focus on what these young kids are doing. They're doing too much
Yeah.
of it. 10U, 12U, 14U, playing year round and playing multi-sports. Cause I think multi-sports, the younger you are, the better. Like I don't want to see a
Yeah.
12U kid or a 14U kid for the most part
Right.
being a one sport athlete. As you get closer to the end of the process of what
Right.
you're doing is what I'm advocating for. So I guess it's the same thing with that. I don't think 10U kids should be playing 120 games in a year. I
Right.
think it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's a waste of money. I'd
Yeah.
rather see play, dare I say, half that and
Right.
this like
Yep.
actually practice, so
Yeah. No. Practice. Who
yeah,
does that?
yeah, like, games aren't practice. Games are testing the skills of what you've learned in practice, So I think yes, I understand the limit, but I also think college coaches, you know what? If you think you're going to lose an athlete that you want because you're not out recruiting them, punt and go on to the next athlete because
Yeah.
obviously you've put your time into it, and you've got the trips and stuff like that. So I guess I'm speaking that if I was still coaching in the Power Four and I had my staff of 4, you know, there would be 2 of us on campus at all times training and 2 out
Right.
recruiting at all times,
Yeah.
and we can make that and we can pull back. And I would
Yeah.
make the decision that if I lost a kid to Texas A&M because I wasn't at a tournament of hers in the fall, I don't want that kid anyways.
Right.
That would be
Exactly.
my answer. So
Mm.
maybe I'm just too old and too black and white, but it'd be pretty simple on my part.
No,
So
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think you made some really good points. I think with the fall it's just like I think it's getting more and more. Again, everyone's always like, "Oh, back when I, played, blah, blah, blah." But I don't remember playing. I mean, there's tournaments in like December, which is like wild to me. Like that's crazy.
yeah,
That's
but
crazy.
back when I played, you couldn't get NIL money. So
This
we
is
could go
true.
down the list of things that
Exactly.
you're wanting to
And
say.
it's
So
just
um,
crazy.
I guess I would say, so let's just say if I'm talking Macy and I'm talking selfishly, and what if her playing 10 tournaments in the fall because she is representing Cam Woods and a couple other things. That's their expectations and that's
Well, and
money.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
going to
you're right.
dictate what my child can make because You want that time off. You already have dead periods. You don't work from
Yeah.
Thanksgiving till the first of the year and all that dead period during that time. So I don't know. I get it, but I didn't like it back when we had 3 coaches. It was me and 2 assistants, and we were only ever allowed
Right.
to have 2 on the road at one time. And that was always, well, not everybody has 3. Well, yeah, but what if we get that and everybody can go out? Then maybe more of you would have 3. I
Right.
don't think, I don't know. Maybe my political views are coming out right now, but I want everybody out of my life. I want people to quit
Yeah.
telling me how to do things. Do what's right for you and your kid and your family.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's
I don't
100%.
know. That's
No,
probably not a right way
no,
to say
no,
it.
there's no right or wrong. I think the fall has gotten so busy. But like you said, you bring in NIL, you bring in a lot of those other things. And I do think too, like it's if you want to play 10 tournaments, cool, go for it. If you don't, then don't like it. So the next question that I have or that was asked is to do a lot with technology. I know you've mentioned the U hit, you've mentioned the Matt Woods with motor preferences and all these different things. It's just asking a question that, we hear all the time is, do you think technology has made recruiting more fair and more accurate? Or do you think it's making it more about the numbers and not about just going
That's a
out
good
and playing the game?
question. That's a really
Yeah.
good question.
Yeah.
You know, ooh, I think the metrics and things that are out there, I think, are so significant in being able to understand things. But
Right.
there's a lot of people that are great bullpen pitchers that can't pitch a lick in a game. So there's
Yes.
the intangibles that I'm talking about. It's almost like the it. So what I would have loved to have had all of the metrics and the technology and all that stuff is it kind of would give me a way to sift through, like, where are these kids
Yeah.
to be able to then go and do it. Cause we know, like, you got to have a bat speed of at least 71 or higher in order
Right.
to be able to hit X amount of home runs or whatever you want to do or be a great hitter. They have those kind of metrics are out there, or your spin rate in pitching and all that kind of stuff. But the thing that will never be able to replace is somebody being able to evaluate somebody's heart, grit, and softball IQ. You can't put
Yeah.
a metric on a softball IQ. And I would take somebody who hits 70 plus exit speed with a huge softball IQ over someone who hits 78. I don't
Yeah.
care what you tell me, because I
Right.
can't stuff the amount of softball IQ in somebody's brain in 2 years, but I can develop bat speed.
Yeah. Well,
So,
yeah, you can develop the numbers. For
yeah,
the most,
so
they gotta be athletic, but you know what I mean.
absolutely, absolutely, but I do like it from an organizational standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint. I love that a kid who maybe lives out, I wanna pick on our CEO, Bonnie, out in Kuna, Como, whatever, Idaho, that maybe no one knows about, but that can go to a camp and all of a sudden they have an 80 bat exit speed.
Yeah.
That's gonna pique some interest of people of like, "Hey, we need to go out and find this kid," and maybe that's that diamond that no one knows about, because that's what
Right.
everybody's looking for is that diamond in the rough that nobody knows about, and how can I go steal her? So
Yeah.
I love the technology from that standpoint. I also like it that I think, the greatness of the technology is I can sit and watch a kid play on
Yeah.
camera
That's
and
huge.
from that's huge, like, you can't replace that, like so I think yes, I think it's helped because it's made the world smaller in which we're doing, I think it's helped organize, but it's never gonna replace and
Right.
this and the softball IQ of what an athlete can do, and like I said,
Yeah.
it's the it. For me, it's always the it, and if I can ever figure out how to measure it, then I will never do another podcast for Extra Innings Softball. I'll be sitting on an
Right.
island with a pina colada in my hand enjoying what I came up with, but I don't think you can measure that, and I think
Yeah.
that's why, yes, I think it's awesome, I think it helps, but it's not the end all be all.
Yeah, well, and the player I always think of when I think of stuff like this is Odyssey Alexander from James Madison. You watch
Absolutely.
her in the World Series and like they do a whole bit on her and like she didn't have a pitching coach. I think she like put something up against the wall and I don't even know how she learned how to pitch, but she
Absolutely.
taught herself how to pitch.
Yeah.
And like you look at that and you're like, yeah, I'm sure she probably didn't measure her spin rate. Like I'm sure when she was
Right.
getting recruited, she didn't measure any of that kind of stuff. But the the just the dog in her, I hate saying that. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
well, really
Absolutely.
like she's a dog. Like she just went out there and competed, and that's something you can't teach, and you can't. measure.
Leadership and competitiveness, if you ever found a way to be able to measure that, market it, and truly be able to teach it, because I'm going to tell you this is going to be not something people like to hear. I don't think you can make a competitor, and I don't think you can make a leader. Those are things that people are born with.
I agree with
You
that.
can teach them how to act it. You can
Yeah.
teach them that part of it. That is not something that a college coach or anybody, that's a gift from God. Somebody who's a
Yeah.
leader and somebody who's ultra competitive. I don't care
Yeah.
what they throw, what their spin rate is. I'll take that over that any day of the week.
100%. Kind of going off of that, a more specific question. I wanted to ask that one first to kind of go into this one. I may not have as much expertise on this specific thing, but you do because you're a pitcher and you're more into the technology than I know I am when it comes to softball. But if someone asks, how do I best use spin rate data to get goals for pitching? Like, how do I use the spin rate to, mark where I'm at, to make goals for myself in the future? Kind of what can you use of that measurement
Yeah,
that
I think the big thing is knowing what your baseline is. That's the number one thing is your baseline. And then really educating yourself. And this would be a whole nother podcast episode of what spin rate do you have to have for certain pitches to truly be effective. So what spin rates do you have to have for certain pitches? Because we know X amount of, revolutions for a rise ball to truly rise. You have to have, if it's not spinning at least 27 times, it's not going to rise. It might climb, but it's not going to rise. So I think knowing what your baseline is to be able to mark your improvement, especially from a younger age on, from that freshman, sophomore year, to know what I have to do. So if I've, only got 23 revolutions on my rise ball and I'm hell bent on having a rise ball, then I'm going to have to work to get to that 27. What are the things that I can do to do that? Well, that comes with strength and conditioning. That comes with checking your mechanics to make they're the best. So it creates a huge outline for that. So number one, know what your baseline is. What are your spin rates on it? Rhapsody, I always say that wrong. They've got different places that you can go to and they'll measure it. Once again, it costs a lot of money, all those different things on there. Guess you can buy a machine, but you're talking $24,000+. So there's a lot of places that will have those. So knowing what that is, I think that the thing that I would do is I think what the spin rate will do is everybody's spin rate is going to be better in certain pitches than not. And I think
Right.
it helps you kind of guide what pitches should I really be zoning in and focusing on that's going to make me the best.
Yeah.
And when I say that in lieu of, I'm a firm believer, and there's a lot of people that won't agree with me, that I think you only need 3 pitches.
Yes.
You need 3 great pitches
Only
to be able
one and one off speed. That is whatever.
and to
One of them
change
has to be
some
changing
type
speed.
of a change up. So we're looking for 2 others. And you need to be able to thread a needle with a fastball. You need to,
Yes.
and you're not going to throw a ton, but if you can't hit 8 out of 10 low inside, low outside, high inside, high outside with a fastball, your spin rate's not going to matter because you don't have
No.
the control of what you're doing.
Yep.
So, I mean, I go and do pitching lessons and they're like, well, when am I going to learn a pitch? I'm like, when you learn how to throw a fastball for a strike.
Look at asphalt.
Where I want it, when I want it, Now,
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell them I'm not going to play with spins and different things for them because I don't want them to get bored. I want them to have something to do. But if you can't throw a fastball 8 out of 10 times to a location, and the same thing with your changeup, then we're not ready for anything else. So your spin rates don't mean anything. Who cares?
Yeah.
So, like I said, 3 great pitches and you're going to win a lot of championships. And so the spin rates need to be something that help you hone in on outside of what your off speed or changeup pitches. What are your next 2 pitches you're going to work on?
Yeah. I love that. I didn't think about that either with like what spin rate are your best to kind
Yeah.
of hone. Kind of like that. I just never,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not really
Yeah.
in that right now.
Because
So
there's going to be people whose balls, just from a natural rotation, just natural on a fastball,
yeah.
tend to snap this way or snap that way. Well, guess
Yeah.
what? That's going to make a difference. And some are going to roll over better. So now you're starting to talk drop
Right.
balls and different things. So it's really what your spin rates are on those. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people just want to say they have, when I hear people say I have 7 pitches, I'm like, no, you don't. They don't.
Yeah.
First of all, there's not even 7 pitches out there. A slurve is not a pitch. I don't care what anyone says. Like something
Not
that like,
some people with that. I love it.
or drive. I'm sure. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too old and I need to get out of the
No,
game. But
I agree with you. It's
that curves and rise is a combination.
Usually
of
that's the one that gets hit out of the park.
yeah, like it's something that's a combination of a rise ball and a curveball means you don't have either pitch perfected yet. Like
Right.
that's just the bottom line for me. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I agree
I'm
with
probably
that.
going to get a lot of hate mail for that one, but
Well, I just have one more question and we'll wrap it up for today's episode. the question is one we get all the time. This is one that floods our emails, floods our DMs, is asked all the time. And we have so many things that answer this question. So we'll reference you to that, but also we'll kind of talk about it a little bit here. So the question that we always get is, how do you rank players? I know we've done multiple episodes about it, and we just released one a few weeks ago talking all things rankings, the everything in and out. I would imagine we could probably answer any question that you have in that episode, but kind of just to briefly go over it for this person, Carie, do you want to talk about how we rank players?
Yeah. So the way that these athletes are ranked, first of all, let's just say that there are lots of options every time the ranking committee comes out with things. Like you literally could put when you make when the Elite 100 are made, there's 5 or 6 that they should be up there, but there's only 100 spots because we don't do ties. So let's just start with that. We beat that to a dead horse. And I think I want to compare it to even the way the NC2A does it. These young women are nominated, and I think the nomination form for extra inning softball probably drives people the craziest because it's just ridiculously long and all that kind of stuff. But it's doing everything it can to get as much information about each individual player, of players who are being evaluated who cannot always have eyes seen playing. So I think the All-Americans in softball have gotten better because more games are on TV. So the people are doing it can actually watch players and see it and put it on, and there's video evidence and all that kind of stuff. There's not always that with it. They throw in one small little clip, but it's not like a plethora of a season that's gone on. So the way these athletes are being evaluated by the ranking committee is, number one, they're looking, first of all, statistics go through a software. It's evaluated by a computer, so it takes all human eyes out of it at that point in time. But then you'll get the question, well, then the stats are only as good as the people keeping it. You're correct. People can lie on it. You're correct. We do our best to verify it because the software will identify red flags. So if it shows someone had 200 at bats and they're hitting 1,000, well, somebody from extra inning softball is going to be reaching out and asking for, the game changer statistics to be, so we can see it and verify it and do that stuff. We can't help if it's Susie's little granddaddy that keeps it and everything Susie does is perfect. We can't do that. You're also only well as ranked as based on who's nominated. There are not phone calls being allowed to be made to the ranking committee to say, well, you ranked my kid number 19 and she should be number 2. Sorry, we don't do that. Everything is done anonymously. You and I have worked very hard in building up the regional board where we reach out to coaches and to not parents, but coaches who can help weigh in on not just their athletes, but everybody's athletes. A lot of phone calls are made. A lot of relationship is being made into trying to learn about these things. We have done a tremendous job in trying to build up, like, what are the tournaments are, what is considered as a national gold tournament, a silver, a bronze, that will help, if someone's hitting 600 and they played in one national tournament, but somebody else has hit 300 and they played in 8 national tournaments. Well, the 300 is going to be weighed higher because we know who they're playing against. I think those are all the ways to be able to be seen. And I really want people to understand that ranking is not final, is not permanent, is done year to year. So it's based on what you did for the year. No one cares what you did 2 years ago because no one cares what Briellis did when she was at Auburn, but she was the player of the year at Arkansas.
Right.
So those are the things. So there's a lot of phone calls made and talked to about certain players when decisions are being made. But I really want to go back to is that please, please, please know that it's an honor. This is just a celebration. This is not a label like a cattle ear that tells you you're number 22 and you're never going to be any higher or lower. And if you're in that top 100, heck, I'd say if you're in the top 150, you're going to go play where you want to go play. Like, there's a lot of athletes. We just did the class of 2026 and it's in the watch list. There's 2,000 athletes that we're putting on that watch list to then hone down to the top 100, to then put to the 50, to then put to the 25, and then pick a player of the year to kind of send them off the same way they're going to do in college. And I think that's what is so big. I guess I'm almost excited that people are as upset about the rankings as they are when it comes out, because that means that we're doing our job right, because it must be being something that people are looking at. So I think with you and I being able to be the liaison between the ranking committee and talking to coaches and talking to regional board members, there's always going to be people that are going to be very upset that their kid is ranked number 20 in the nation. I'm sorry. That's,
Yeah.
you know what? I just want you to know that there could have been a mistake made by the ranking committee. Maybe there wasn't enough input put into it. I don't know, but be as detailed as you possibly can. List every tournament. Make sure you do it. And as nice as it is for us to see that your kid was in FCA and all that kind of stuff, really keep it to the meat and potatoes, because we're not ranking them as a human being. We're ranking them as the softball player that they see where they're at in their class. So I guess I hope that helps. And just know, like, you might be 91 year and you could be up to 30. And it really doesn't matter whatever other companies do, whether it's Line Drive, I'll say it, whether it's Softball America or D1, like, everybody has their input and everybody's going to say we're better than the next person. But I can tell you that everybody at Extra Inning is working their rear ends off to make it very detailed, not a popularity contest, not who you play for. What did you do? Where did you do it? How did you do it? And let's let the ranking committee sift you out through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only thing I want to reiterate is you have to be nominated to be ranked. I think
Yes, you have to be nominated to be ranked.
that's a big thing.
When I look at the class of 2026 and the watch list is 2,000 kids, then guess what? We only had like 900 nominated. There's 1,100 other kids out there that weren't even ranked because they didn't turn it in.
Exactly.
You know?
That's the big thing. That's the number one step. After that, you can get rolling. But if you don't have a nomination, then there's just no way
Absolutely.
that our committee can. Yeah, I wish there was. I wish there was like a census that they could go and be like, oh, so they didn't do it. But
Yeah, and I think that's it. There's no loyalty to any organizations, even though that's going to be an accusation. There's no loyalty to certain players. There's none of that, and no one cares what you did last year is being ranked on what you did this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
that was
that's
a good one. Episode 1. That was, I'm sure will make a lot of people not happy. So, but the bottom line is we always want to talk about the controversial things. Make sure you spread this podcast, because the more people we get listening to it, the more sponsorships we got. Make sure you're reaching out to us, like, these questions, because I really think we need to do these one a month. Like, it needs to be once a month where we're picking out what people want to hear, because we're all about offering that meat and potato for people. And yes, we do rankings, and yes, we do that. But I think if you get on our website, you're going to start seeing, your mental health or your mental training. You're going to see the physical training. You're going to see podcasts with people that are from Division Ones like Nebraska and Arkansas down to, North Dallas and all that kind of stuff, to really get to the people. And we've got some really cool, exciting things coming out in the next couple weeks.
Yes, awesome. Well, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel on Spotify, and we will see you guys next week.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Voices from the Field, presented by Extra Inning Softball. Don't forget to follow us on social media, subscribe to us on Spotify, and visit our website at extrainningsoftball.com for more stories, rankings, and updates from around the game. We'll see you guys next week.